personal connection to the film subject matter and how the film came to be?
My personal connection is I read it on the back of a matchbox. No, I'm kidding. Sorry. My personal connection is that my personal connection is that my grandfather told me the stories when I was a child, and he fought in the war between 1916 and 1918, and he was 17, and they were shocking stories. They were very particularly notable for not being about heroism and bravery, but being more about how lucky he was to be alive, and luck and chance and coincidence.
Tell us then how you once you've taken these anecdotes, you put this story together in your mind. Why did you then want to tell it in real time and use this very interesting way of technically making a movie? If you could set that up for me.
Yeah, I chose to shoot it in one because I felt partly that I wanted to lock the audience together with the central characters and make them experience it's a ticking clock thriller in the end, every second passing with the characters and take every footstep with them. So I wanted that. I wanted to remove as many barriers between the audience and the characters as I possibly could. And in an ideal world, they forget that it's one shot. They're not thinking about that. They're watching the story. So that's the goal always, is to find a perfect marriage of content and form, a perfect shape. And that's what you're searching for often with a movie. And then there was another reason, which is that, I think you, as a filmmaker, you fall very quickly into a kind of repetitive pattern in terms of shooting coverage and the way that you edit and the way everything falls together. You sort of stop thinking about how many different ways there are to express story, how many different ways there are to treat character and landscape and time and all these other things. So I wanted to kind of, just use a different language for this movie.
Can you introduce me to these two amazing actors which you've cast in the film? And was it hard to find them? Because they both give these amazing performances.
There were. I wanted two young actors who the audience didn't have any preferably didn't have much prior relationship with. I wanted to feel they were two amongst 2 million, and in a funny way, I wanted you to feel at the beginning of the movie they weren't particularly special. They were just two average soldiers, and for us to realise or begin to understand why they were special, if they were, during the course of the film. George Mackay is very quite old-fashioned, very internal, but very feels everything very deeply as Schofield, and the slightly different class to Blake, who is chattier and younger and more vulnerable, less experienced in war, but on the surface a much more readable, warmer personality. And it's a combination of the two, the sort of, salt and pepper of the two that I wanted, this unlikely friendship between two people who in civilian life probably wouldn't have spent any time together. I always had the joke that for me, Schofield in the pub would be sitting by the fire with a book, and his glass of wine, with his dog at his feet, and that Blake would be the other end of the pub, on his fourth pint with his mates.
And just lastly, can I just ask you about this experience we're going to get in the cinema? I mean, you briefly touched on it, but I just want to just bring it in together. I mean, what's the experience we're going to get when we sit down and watch 1917? And as I said to you before, I saw it in Dolby, and the only word I can use is exhausted.
I'm sorry about that.
No, in a fantastic way.
Yeah. I want to, we've created an experience. We've created something that I think is designed to be seen on a big screen, and I hope people go and see it on a big screen. We've used all the tools available to you as a contemporary filmmaker to make it feel like something experiential, something immersive. And I don't just mean image, I mean sound and music and everything else. And you don't ever want to be able to sum up your movie in a single phrase, otherwise you'd write, it's not a delivery of a message as a film, or it's not a history lesson, it's not you don't need to know anything about the First World War to enter this world and be taken on this ride. And I think perhaps if you come out feeling like you understand a little bit more about what these men went through, about what happens to human beings in war when they're stripped to their essence and stripped of social class and all the things that the world gives them, they just right down to the bare bones of what it means to be a brother or a friend or want to go home. Hopefully it makes people think about those things as a universal truth rather than just, war.
Oh,
Where is the buzz? You said
We used to be a
was
singer.
mine,
Oh,
mine.
where